high in the jagged spine of the Varelian peaks, where the wind howled like a grieving spirit and snow fell in thick, relentless veils. A human outpost clung to the edge of survival. Its name, Whisper Ridge, was ironic. Nothing whispered here. Everything screamed. The blizzards, the ice wolves, the groaning metal of the prefab walls under pressure. Inside one of the sturdiest domes, warmed by geothermal vents and stubborn human will, lived a man named Joran Vale. He wasn't a soldier, not anymore. Once a field medic for the Terranaline Coalition, he traded his medkit for solitude after the war with the Krellick Syndicate left too many ghosts in his mind and too few friends in the galaxy. Now he repaired drones, brewed bitter root tea, and watched the endless white through triple-paned glass. One evening, as the twin moons of Varelis cast their pale silver glow over the snowdrifts, a soft, desperate knock came at his reinforced door. Not the sharp rap of a patrol officer or the mechanical buzz of a delivery bot. This was hesitant, almost apologetic, like someone afraid they might be turned away before even being seen. Joran frowned, setting down his wrench. Visitors were rare this deep in the winter cycle. He checked the external cam. Two figures stood huddled together, cloaked in tattered thermal wraps, their breath puffing in ghostly clouds. Even through the grainy feed, their features were unmistakable. Tall, slender, with luminous green skin peeking through torn fabric, and long, snow-white hair that shimmered like spun moonlight. Humanoid, yes, but undeniably alien. Varelians. And not just any Varelians. Twins. He hesitated. The war had ended, technically, but old suspicions died hard in places like this. Varelians had been neutral during the conflict, but neutrality often looked like betrayal to those who'd lost everything. Still, something in their posture, the way one leaned slightly on the other, the way their shoulders trembled not just from cold but from exhaustion, made his medic instincts flare. With a sigh, he disengaged the locks. The door hissed open, and frigid air rushed in, carrying with it the scent of frost and something faintly floral, like crushed alpine blossoms. The two women stepped inside, blinking against the sudden warmth and light. Up close, they were even more striking. Their eyes were large, almond-shaped, and the color of deep forest moss, rimmed with silver lashes. Fine, almost translucent markings traced along their cheekbones, glowing faintly, a trait Joran remembered from old xenobiology briefings, emotional bioluminescence. Right now, those markings pulsed a soft, anxious blue. "Please," the one on the left said, her voice low and melodic though strained. We just need job." Her standard was accented but clear. "Any job. Cleaning, repair, guarding. We strong. We work hard." Joran crossed his arms, not out of hostility, but habit. "You're Varelians. This is a human settlement. There's not much call for alien labor up here." The other twin stepped forward, her voice firmer but no less weary. "We know, but the lower valleys, they're gone. Syndicate raiders burned the agridomes, took everything. Our mates." She trailed off, her biomarkings flickering to a deep, sorrowful violet. "They died defending the nursery. We are all that's left of our kin group." Silence stretched, filled only by the hum of the heating system and the distant moan of the wind. Joran studied them. Their worn boots, the makeshift bandage wrapped around one wrist, the way they subtly shielded each other even now, in his doorway. He'd seen that look before. Not on aliens, but on human refugees after the fall of Sirius Prime. The look of people who'd lost everything but still refused to break. He exhaled sharply. "You'll freeze out there tonight. Come in. Get warm. We'll talk about work in the morning." Relief washed over their faces, their markings shifting to a gentle, hopeful green. They bowed slightly, a Varelian gesture of gratitude he recognized from old diplomatic vids. "Thank you, kind human," the first twin murmured. "Name's Joran," he said, stepping aside. "And you are?" "I am Lyra," said the bolder one. "And I am Lyra," said the softer-spoken twin. "We are mirror souls, born under the same moon." Joran nodded, not fully understanding the term but sensing its weight. He showed them to the small guest alcove, a fold-out thermal cot and a ration heater. They moved with quiet grace, careful not to touch anything unnecessarily, as if afraid of overstepping. He offered them rehydrated stew and hot tea. They ate slowly, savoring every bite like it might be their last. Over the next few days, an uneasy rhythm formed. Lyra and Lyra worked tirelessly, scrubbing floors, organizing Joran's chaotic tool cache, even helping him recalibrate the perimeter sensors. They asked for no pay, only shelter and a share of rations. Joran, in turn, found himself softening. He'd catch them whispering in their liquid, melodic tongue, laughing softly at something only they understood. Once, he found Lyra humming a haunting lullaby while mending a torn thermal blanket, her fingers moving with delicate precision. Another time, Lyra surprised him by fixing a malfunctioning heater with nothing but a bent wire and a piece of quartz she'd found outside. "Varelian trick," she'd said with a rare, proud smile. But it wasn't all quiet domesticity. One night, the alarm blared. A proximity breach. Ice wolves, drawn by the scent of warmth and food, circled the dome, their eyes glowing red in the dark. Joran grabbed his pulse rifle, heart pounding. Before he could reach the outer lock, Lyra was already there, her white hair braided tightly back, eyes sharp. "Let us," she said. "We know their patterns." Before he could protest, both twins slipped outside, moving like shadows through the storm. Joran watched through the cam feed, stunned. They didn't fight the wolves, they danced with them. Using high-frequency whistles and quick, precise movements, they herded the pack away from the dome, guiding them toward a ravine where the snow was too thin for ambush. Within minutes, the threat was gone. They returned, snow-dusted and breathless, but unharmed. "You could have been killed," Joran said, handing them heated towels. Lyra shrugged. "On Vareli's, children learn to read the ice wolves before they learn to read stars. They are not evil, just hungry." That night, over a shared meal of spiced tuber stew, the twins finally spoke of their past. They'd been botanists in the high valleys, cultivating cold-resistant flora that could feed entire colonies. Their mates, twin brothers themselves, had been engineers, designing hydroponic systems that bloomed even in permafrost. They'd had a daughter, barely 5 cycles old, with green skin like theirs and hair the color of dawn. She'd been in the nursery when the raiders came. Lyra's voice broke. "We were in the East Dome, checking the frost vines. By the time we returned, only ash." Joran didn't offer empty platitudes. He simply refilled her cup and said, "I lost my whole unit on Ceres. Sometimes, the only thing that keeps you breathing is knowing someone else understands the weight." Their biomarkings glowed a soft, empathetic gold. Weeks passed. The snows deepened, but so did the bond between the three. Joran taught them human card games. They taught him Varelian star chants. He laughed, really laughed, for the first time in years when Lyra accidentally activated a cleaning drone that chased Lyra around the dome, mistaking her white hair for dust. Lyra, in turn, teased Joran about his terrible tea-brewing skills, though she always drank it gratefully. Then came the day the syndicate returned. Not in force, just a scout skiff, sleek and black, hovering low over the ridge. Joran spotted it on the long-range scanner. His blood ran cold. The Krellick syndicate didn't send scouts unless they were hunting something or someone. "They know we're here," Lyra said, her voice tight. "They've been tracking Varelian survivors. They want our genetic codes, the cold adaptation sequences in our blood. They think it'll help them colonize dead worlds." "We have to leave," Lyra whispered, already packing their few belongings. Joran shook his head. "Not in this storm. The skiff would spot your heat signature instantly, and my transport's half frozen." He paced, mind racing. Then he stopped. "There's another way. The old geothermal tunnel. It leads to the abandoned mining outpost 10 clicks east. From there, you can signal the coalition relay." "But you?" Lyra asked, eyes wide. "I'll stay. Draw their attention. They're after Varelians, not some washed-up medic." "No," Lyra said firmly. "We don't leave you behind. Not again." Before Joran could argue, the skiff descended, landing with a hiss of steam on the ridge. Figures emerged, tall, armored, faceless in their black helmets. Krellick's enforcers. "Go," Joran urged, shoving a thermal pack into Lyra's hands. "Now, I'll hold them off." But Lyra grabbed his arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "There's a better way. Trust us." She and Lyra moved quickly, pulling panels from the wall, rerouting wires Joran didn't even know existed. "We studied your systems the first week," Lyra explained. "Varelian memory is detailed." In minutes, they'd rigged the dome's external heaters to overload, creating a massive thermal bloom that would blind the syndicate sensors. Then, using Joran's drone fleet, they programmed a decoy convoy, tiny heat signatures mimicking life forms, heading west into the deadliest ice canyon. "Now," Lyra said, "we go east, quietly." They slipped out through the maintenance hatch just as the enforcers breached the main door. Snow swallowed their footsteps. The wind howled, but it also masked their scent. For hours, they trudged through waist-deep drifts, Joran between the twins, each supporting the other. At one point, Lyra stumbled into a hidden crevasse. Joran lunged, grabbing her arm just in time, hauling her up with a strength he didn't know he had. Her markings flared bright green. Gratitude, fear, trust, all at once. When they finally reached the mining outpost, it was half-buried and dark. But Lyra found the emergency beacon, and with a few precise adjustments, sent a coded pulse skyward, a Varelian distress call layered with coalition encryption. "They'll come," she said, breath fogging in the cold. "But it'll take time." Inside the rusted shell of the old command center, they huddled around a single heat brick. Joran noticed how the twins instinctively curled toward each other, their white hair mingling like twin streams of moonlight. He felt a pang, not of loneliness, but of something deeper, a longing for connection he'd buried under layers of grief. "Why did you stay?" he asked quietly. "You could have run, left me to my fate." Lyra looked at him, her moss-green eyes soft. "Because you opened your door when no one else would. Because you gave us warmth when we were frozen inside and out. Because you saw us. Not just aliens. Not just widows. Just us." Lyra added, "On Varelles, we say, a heart that shelters others becomes a home itself. You gave us home, Joran. Now we protect it." Outside, the storm raged on. But inside, something new was growing. Fragile, uncertain, but undeniably alive. Joran reached out, tentatively taking one of Lyra's hands in his. Her skin was cool, but her pulse was steady. Lyra watched them, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips. Hours later, the distant thrum of coalition engines cut through the wind. Rescue was coming. But as the lights of the dropship painted the snow in blue and gold, none of them moved toward the exit just yet. There was no rush. For the first time in a long time, they weren't running from something. They were standing together, human and alien, healer and survivors, strangers turned shelter, facing whatever came next not as fugitives, but as something closer to family. And in the quiet between the howls of the storm, Joran realized he hadn't thought about his ghosts in days. Instead, he found himself wondering what kind of tea Lyra would brew in the morning, or whether Lyra would finally teach him that star chant. The future was still uncertain, the galaxy still dangerous. But for now, in this frozen ruin, warmed by shared breath and unspoken promises, it felt like enough. More than enough. It felt like the beginning of something worth staying alive for. The rescue dropship that lifted them from the frozen ruins of the mining outpost carried more than just warmth and safety. It carried complications. Aboard the coalition vessel Aurora's Resolve, Joran, Lyra, and Lyra were met not with open arms, but with wary gazes and clipped questions. The twins were Varelians, neutral during the war, yes, but their biology held secrets the Syndicate coveted, and now the coalition wanted to know why the Krelliks were hunting them so fiercely. Joran, once a respected field medic, was now just a civilian with questionable judgment for sheltering aliens without authorization. They were separated upon arrival at the orbital way station Haven 7. Lyra and Lyra were taken to biosecurity for debriefing and genetic screening. Joran was confined to quarters under administrative review. He paced the narrow room like a caged animal, guilt gnawing at him. He'd promised them safety, and instead, he'd delivered them into a different kind of cage. But the twins were not helpless. During their screening, Lyra, ever the strategist, revealed just enough. That the Krelliks weren't just after their cold adaptation genes, but a dormant retrovirus in Varelian blood that, when activated by extreme cold and emotional duress, produced a protein capable of stabilizing terraforming nanites on dead worlds. The Syndicate planned to weaponize it, creating armies that could survive anywhere. The coalition scientists were stunned. This changed everything. Meanwhile, Lyra, quieter but no less perceptive, noticed something the humans missed. The lead bio-officer's neural implant flickered with a Krellik's encryption signature. She whispered it to Lyra during their brief privacy window. That night, as the station rotated silently above the blue curve of a distant colony world, the twins enacted a plan. Using a harmonic resonance trick taught to them by their botanist mother, humming at a precise frequency that disrupted low-grade security fields, they shorted the lock on their holding cell. They slipped through maintenance corridors, their white hair tucked under thermal hoods, green skin smudged with grease to dull its glow. They didn't head for the docks. They headed for Joran. They found him asleep, exhausted from worry. Lyra touched his shoulder gently. He woke with a start, eyes wide. "You, how?" "No time," Lyra said, tossing him a stolen maintenance jumpsuit. There's a Krelix mole in BioSEC. They're going to extract our blood samples and sell the data. If they get that protein sequence, entire worlds will become battlefields. Joran didn't hesitate. Where's the nearest escape pod? Not a pod, Lyra said softly. Your old Medivac shuttle. Still docked in Bay 9. You're listed as its last certified pilot. He stared at her. You remembered that? You told us during tea, she said, as if it were obvious. They moved like ghosts through the station's underbelly. But the Krelix mole had already alerted their handlers. As they reached Bay 9, alarms blared, not station-wide, but localized. A trap. 3 enforcers stepped from the shadows, pulse rifles raised. Joran shoved the twins behind him. Get to the shuttle. I'll hold them. But Lyra grabbed his wrist. No more sacrifices. She turned to Lyra, and in a move so synchronized it looked rehearsed, they both pressed their palms to the bulkhead walls. Their bioluminescent markings flared brilliant gold, then white-hot. A low hum filled the corridor, Varelian resonance, amplified by their twin bond. The metal groaned, then buckled inward, crushing the enforcers' rifles and pinning them against the opposite wall. Go, Lyra urged. They scrambled into the shuttle. The Sparrow, Joran's old bird, dusty but functional. He fired up the engines with hands that hadn't trembled in years. As they shot out of the bay, station turrets swiveled toward them. But Lyra, studying the NAV console, pointed to a debris field from a recent skirmish. Fly through the wreckage. Their targeting AI will glitch on the thermal echoes. Joran grinned. You've been paying attention. I listen, she said simply. They vanished into the asteroid belt, drifting silently among shattered hulls and frozen corpses of war. For days, they lived on ration bars and recycled air, patching hull breaches with sealant foam and arguing over star charts. But in the quiet moments, when Lyra braided Lyra's hair by the dim cockpit light, or when Joran shared stories of Earth's oceans, which neither twin had ever seen, something deeper took root. It wasn't just gratitude or survival anymore. It was affection, tenderness, a shared language built of glances and gestures. One night, as the shuttle coasted near a nebula that painted the cabin in violet and gold, Lyra asked softly, Do humans bond with more than one heart? Joran looked at her, then at Lyra, who watched him with guarded hope. Some do, he said carefully. Not everyone understands it. But love isn't a math equation. It doesn't have to divide evenly to be real. Lyra's markings shimmered a deep rose. On Vareli's, mirror souls often share a life partner. It's not uncommon. Our hearts beat in the same rhythm. We don't lose ourselves in another. We expand. Joran reached out first to Lyra, then to Lyra, taking both their hands. Their skin was cool, but their grip was sure. Then maybe, he said, voice rough with emotion, we've been building a home this whole time. Not just a shelter, but a real one. But the universe rarely grants peace without price. A week later, a distress signal crackled over the comms, encrypted, but bearing the Varelian morning chime. It was from their home valley. Survivors had regrouped. They'd found their daughter's pendant in the ashes, and a data chip hidden beneath the nursery's foundation. The chip contained schematics, not just of hydroponic systems, but of a hidden Varelian archive buried beneath the ice. A vault containing the original genetic key to the retrovirus, along with a failsafe to deactivate it. They need us, Lyra whispered, tears tracing silver paths down her green cheeks. We can't go back, Joran said grimly. The Syndicate will be watching. It's a death trap. Then we spring it, Lyra said, eyes blazing. We lead them into the vault and collapse it behind us. Seal the key forever. It was madness, but it was also their only chance to end the hunt. They returned to Vareli's under cover of a solar flare, landing the Sparrow in a glacial crevasse miles from the valley. Disguised in scavenged Syndicate gear, they infiltrated the ruins. The valley was occupied. Krelix troops patrolled the burned-out domes, scanning for life signs. But the twins knew every ice tunnel, every hidden path their people had carved over centuries. Deep beneath the central spire, they found the vault, a crystalline chamber humming with ancient energy. Inside, suspended in stasis, floated a single seed, bioluminescent, pulsing like a heartbeat. The heart seed. Legend said it held the first breath of Varelian life. As Lyra reached for it, the chamber doors sealed. A voice echoed through the ice, cold, mechanical. You are predictable mirror souls. From the shadows emerged Commander Vrax, the Krellick's warlord who'd ordered the raid on their valley. He wasn't wearing armor. He was altered. His skin had taken on a sickly green hue, his eyes flecked with silver. "Your blood," he sneered, "has already given us what we need, but the Heartseed? That is the final piece. With it, we won't just survive dead worlds. We'll reshape them in our image." Joran stepped forward. "You're infected. The retrovirus, it's mutating you." Vrax laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "Not infected, elevated. And soon, you'll help me complete the transformation." He lunged, but Lyra was faster. She slammed her palm against a wall glyph, triggering a resonance cascade. The chamber shook. Ice shards rained from the ceiling. In the chaos, Joran tackled Vrax while Lyra grabbed the Heartseed. "Run!" Joran shouted. But the twins didn't run. They turned back. Together, they placed their hands on the chamber's central pillar. Their markings blazed like twin suns. "We won't let you have it," Lyra said. The vault began to collapse. Joran dragged Vrax into a side tunnel as the ceiling gave way. Behind him, the twins stood hand in hand, the Heartseed cradled between them, their song rising above the roar of falling ice. A final, defiant lullaby. He thought he'd lost them, but when the dust settled, he found them half buried in snow, alive, the Heartseed intact. Vrax was gone, swallowed by the abyss. The Syndicate forces, confused and leaderless, retreated. In the weeks that followed, the twins used the Heartseed not to destroy, but to heal. Planted in the valley's ashes, it bloomed into a tree of light, its roots purging the soil of Syndicate toxins, its leaves releasing spores that mended damaged DNA. Survivors returned. Hope returned. And Joran? He stayed. He built a new dome, not alone, but with Lyra designing the thermal systems and Lyra weaving living vines into the walls for insulation. At night, they shared a bed warmed by geothermal vents and something far rarer. Trust. Love that didn't ask for perfection, only presence. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the reborn valley, Lyra placed a simple band of woven ice fiber on Joran's finger. Lyra did the same. "This is how we bind hearts on Varellis," she said. "Not with vows of forever, but with promises of now." Joran kissed them both. First Lyra's forehead, then Lyra's lips, and whispered, "Then I promise you this now. I'm not going anywhere." But far beyond the mountains, in the black between stars, a Syndicate dreadnought powered up its engines. Vrax had not died. He'd been recovered. And he remembered the human who'd cost him the Heartseed. The war wasn't over. It had only just found its heart. The rebirth of the Varelian Valley unfolded like a slow, sacred bloom. Under the light of the Heartseed tree, now towering and luminous, its branches shimmering with soft green-gold leaves, the survivors rebuilt not just homes, but a future. Lyra and Lyra, once widowed and wandering, became leaders again, not by title, but by the quiet strength they radiated. Joran, no longer a man hiding from his past, stood beside them. Not as a savior, but as a partner, his hands calloused from hauling stone and planting frost-resistant crops, his laughter echoing through domes that now rang with children's voices. Yet peace, they learned, was never a destination, only a breath between storms. Word came through smuggler channels and encrypted coalition bursts. Vrax had returned. Not as a warlord, but as something worse, a hybrid. The retrovirus in his blood, fused with stolen Varelian gene therapy and Krellick cybernetics, had twisted him into a being of cold intellect and burning vengeance. He called himself the Frostborn, and he'd rallied the scattered Syndicate remnants into a new armada, one with a singular mission: retrieve the Heartseed or burn Varellis to cosmic ash. Joran knew they couldn't fight a fleet with vines and songs. But Lyra had an idea, one born not of war, but of memory. Deep in the Heartseed's genetic code lay a resonance frequency, a harmonic signature that could destabilize the very retrovirus Vrax now depended on. If broadcast across the planet at the right moment, it wouldn't kill him. It would unmake him, reverting his body to its original state, fragile and mortal. But the broadcast required a conduit, a living one. "I have to do it," Lyra said one night, standing beneath the Heartseed's glowing boughs. "My bond with the seed is stronger. My voice carries the valley's memory." "No," Joran said instantly, pulling her close. "There's too much risk. What if it drains you? What if we do nothing?" Lyra interrupted, her voice steady but her markings flickering with sorrow. "Then Vrax wins. And not just us, he'll take this song of life and turn it into a weapon. We can't let that happen. In the end, it wasn't one twin who stepped forward, but both. We are mirror souls, Lyra said, taking Lyra's hand and then Joran's. Our strength is in unity. We'll channel the resonance together. And you, Joran, you'll be our anchor. Keep us grounded in this world while our voices reach the stars. The day of reckoning arrived with the sky turning black. The Syndicate armada descended like a swarm of obsidian wasps, blotting out the suns. Vrax's flagship hovered above the valley, a monstrous wedge of metal and malice. From its belly, drop pods rained fire. But the valley was ready. Joran coordinated the defense from a command dome woven into the Heartseed's roots, relaying positions to Varelian hunters armed with sonic lances and iceglaves. Human volunteers, former miners, medics, even cooks, fought alongside them, their rifles blazing. It was chaos, brutal and beautiful, a testament to what unity could forge from desperation. At the heart of it all, atop the central spire where the Heartseed pulsed brightest, Lyra and Lyra stood barefoot on ancient stone, their white hair unbound, their green skin glowing with the full intensity of their bioluminescent markings. Joran stood behind them, hands on their shoulders, his presence a tether to life itself. As Vrax's enforcers breached the outer ring, the twins began to sing. It wasn't a melody meant for ears, but for cells, a vibration that hummed through rock, ice, and bone. The Heartseed flared, its light expanding in concentric waves. Across the battlefield, Syndicate soldiers faltered, their augmented bodies rejecting the retrovirus, their cybernetics shorting out. Even the dropships sputtered, their engines coughing as the resonance disrupted their power cores. High above, in his command throne, Vrax screamed. His skin cracked like dry ice. Green veins blackened. He clawed at his chest as his stolen biology unraveled. No! He roared over the comms, his voice breaking into static. I am eternal. You are a thief. Lyra sang back, her voice carrying on the wind. And the song you stole was never yours. With a final, shuddering pulse, the resonance peaked. Vrax's flagship listed, then imploded in a silent burst of vacuum and flame. The remaining Syndicate vessels, leaderless and crippled, fled into the void. Silence fell over the valley, broken only by the wind, the crackle of dying fires, and the soft weeping of those who'd survived. Lyra and Lyra collapsed into Joran's arms, exhausted but alive. Their markings dimmed to a gentle emerald, their breaths slow and steady. The Heartseed's light softened, returning to its quiet, steady glow. In the weeks that followed, the Coalition arrived not as occupiers but as allies. They brought medics, engineers, and formal recognition of Vareli's as a sovereign world. The twins were offered ambassadorial roles. Joran was reinstated with honors, but he declined a return to Earth. My home is here, he told the officer, glancing toward the dome where Lyra was teaching children how to weave thermal blankets, and Lyra was tending a new garden of glowing moon blossoms. One evening, as the twin moons rose once more, the three of them stood together on the ridge where Joran's old outpost had stood. It was gone now, replaced by a small stone terrace overlooking the valley, a place for quiet moments and shared silences. Lyra leaned her head on Joran's shoulder. Do you ever miss Earth? Sometimes, he admitted. But Earth never felt like home. Not like this. Lyra smiled, her hand finding his. Then stay, not just for us, but for you. He kissed her, then Lyra, under the watchful stars. And in that moment, surrounded by the hum of life reborn and the quiet strength of two hearts that had chosen him as fiercely as he'd chosen them, Joran knew he was exactly where he belonged. Years later, travelers would speak of the valley in the Varelian peaks, not just as a place of rare beauty, but as a legend. They told of a human man who opened his door in a storm, and of twin queens with green skin and white hair who turned his shelter into a kingdom of kindness. They spoke of a tree that sang, and a love that defied war, loss, and the cold void between worlds. And if you ever visit that valley, you might see them still, Joran, Lyra, and Lyra, walking hand in hand through fields of luminous flowers, their laughter carried on the mountain wind, their story not ended, but lived, every single day, in peace, in partnership, and in joy. Years settled over the Varelian Valley like a soft, silver blanket. The scars of war faded beneath layers of new growth, vines curling around rebuilt domes, children's footprints crisscrossing snow-dusted paths, the ever-present hum of the Heartseed tree weaving warmth into the thin mountain air. And at the heart of it all lived Joran, Lyra, and Lyra. Not as heroes frozen in memory, but as a family rooted in quiet, daily love. Their wedding was not a grand spectacle, but a ceremony woven into the rhythm of the valley itself. It took place beneath the heartseed on the first day of the thaw, when the ice rivers began to sing again. There were no rings forged in metal. Instead, each exchanged a braid of their hair, sealed with resin from the tree and tied with threads spun from moonblossom petals. The entire valley gathered. Varelians in robes of living moss, human settlers in patched coats, even a few coalition diplomats who had long since shed their suspicion for admiration. The twins' biomarkings glowed a steady, radiant gold throughout the vows, Varelian for enduring joy, and when Joran kissed them both, the heartseed pulsed in harmony, as if the land itself blessed their union. They built a home not on a ridge, but nestled in the crook of two ancient glaciers, where thermal vents kept the ground warm and the view stretched endlessly across stars and snow. Inside, the walls were lined with shelves of salvaged books, hand-carved toys, and jars of preserved mountain berries. Lyra designed solar collectors that bloomed like flowers at dawn. Lyra cultivated a greenhouse where earth tomatoes grew beside Varelian sky mint, their scents mingling in fragrant harmony. Joran, once a man of war and wounds, became a teacher, showing children how to stitch cuts, how to read star charts, how to listen before speaking. And then came the children, not born of one womb, but of shared hope. They adopted three. A Varelian orphan girl with eyes like forest pools, a human boy whose parents had fallen in the syndicate raids, and a half-Varelian infant found in a derelict escape pod, her skin a soft jade, her hair streaked with silver. They named them Kaelin, Riven, and Soria, names that honored both worlds. At night, the five of them would gather by the hearth, where Joran told stories of oceans he'd never seen. Lyra taught them the star chants of their ancestors, and Lyra sang lullabies that made the very walls shimmer with warmth. There were still challenges, harsh winters, supply shortages, the occasional syndicate remnant skulking at the edge of known space. But none of it could shake the foundation they'd built. Their love wasn't loud or dramatic anymore. It lived in the way Lyra always left Joran's favorite root tea steaming by his workbench, in how Lyra tucked an extra blanket over his shoulders when he dozed off reading, in how Joran never missed a chance to braid the twins' hair before festivals, his fingers clumsy but tender. Decades passed. The children grew. Kaelin became a xenobotanist, studying how the heartseed could heal other worlds. Riven joined the Coalition Peace Corps, mediating conflicts with the same calm patience Joran once used on battlefield medbays. Soria stayed in the valley, becoming its youngest counselor, her voice carrying the same quiet strength as her mother's. When Joran's hair turned white, not from stress, but from time, and when Lyra and Lyra's steps slowed just a little, they didn't mourn the years. They celebrated them. Every morning, they still walked together to the heartseed, hand in hand, to watch the sunrise paint the peaks in rose and gold. And every evening, they returned home to a table set for five, laughter echoing off walls that had known war but now knew only peace. On the 50th anniversary of their wedding, the entire valley threw a feast. Tables stretched from dome to dome, laden with spiced tuber pies, frostberry tarts, and steaming kettles of tea. The children brought their own partners and children, filling the home with new voices, new songs, new love. That night, as the twin moons rose full and bright, Joran sat between Lyra and Lyra on their old terrace, wrapped in a shared blanket woven by Soria's hands. His head rested against Lyra's shoulder. Lyra's fingers laced through his. "Was it worth it?" he asked softly, gazing at the valley below. Alive, thriving, safe. All of it? The running, the fighting, the fear. Lyra kissed his temple. "We didn't just survive, Joran. We built something worth living for." Lyra leaned in, her voice a whisper. "And we built it together." He smiled, eyes glistening. "Then I'd open that door 1,000 times over." And as the heartseed's light pulsed gently in the distance, casting long, loving shadows across the snow, the three of them sat in silence, not needing words, because their lives had already spoken the truest story of all. That love, in all its forms, is the most powerful force in any galaxy. They lived, they loved, they grew old, and they were happy, truly, deeply, peacefully happy until the very end.